Hello and welcome to today's edition of Pegasus Test. On today's edition, we're going to be going over the One Shepherd Bravo Company spring semester of 2023. And this was an awesome semester, as they all are. But this one was special because this was the second largest one in One Shepherd history, the largest one in Bravo Company's history. And it started out, like all One Shepherd semesters, with the initial events. And those initial events are Warrior Basic. We have one of these at every One Shepherd semester for all new people coming into the One Shepherd Regiment. Then we had a land navigation class, and we also had a light leaders class. Now the day started off with PT, where we taught the basic moves of bayonet fighting. After PT, it was time for an excellent breakfast, and then we moved on to initial gear issue. The first class for the light leaders is helping the new warriors that are coming into the regiment in Warrior Basic. They assist those students in getting their initial gear issue, getting the miles gear affixed to their rattle battle, and getting them squared away so they can begin their training. Once the Warrior Basic steps off and hands over to their instructors, then light leaders will pull back into a classroom atmosphere. The students that were attending the land navigation class after their initial issue split off, went with their black hat and green hat instructors out into the training area, and they began to get their classes on the principles of land navigation. They would spend all the daylight hours learning compass theory, learning how to lay azimuths, learning how to read the map, what the terrain features on the map look like, how to orientate your map, and then go out and find several points around the training area. Running concurrently with the land navigation and Warrior Basic class was the Light Leaders class. You've already seen that Light Leaders was assisting the Warrior Basic in the morning with their initial issue and getting their miles gear set up. Well, the Light Leaders then went into a classroom cycle where they learned about mission planning, where they learned about troop leading processes, they learned about the OODA loop, learned about warning orders, and all that other good stuff. Additionally, we had a new thing happening here in this semester. We were integrating new radios. One Shepherd has chosen to step away from its legacy PRC 77 and PRC 128 radios and go with a clone of the AM PRC 152. So this was the first semester the new radios were being used. So Warrior Basic and Light Leaders came together and they were given a class on the new radios. And Land Nav wasn't left out either. They got the class on the new radios and immediately implemented them into their training. Learning never stops at One Shepherd. And one of the things we did is we even gave a class on how to eat lunch. Recently, One Shepherd implemented the policy that on certain days of the initial training event that your lunch would be an MRE, the real soldier food. And we have to take into account that many people are not prior service and don't know all the tricks of the trade about preparing the MREs, so we made lunch a class and taught everybody how to eat lunch the right way. Now, once everybody's bellies were full from a good lunch, we went into the classes of equipment at Warrior Basic, such as the old reliable field phone. While we may have new radios at One Shepherd, we are still using the classic field phones, because while it's Spanish-American War technology, it still works and it's still reliable.
A visual signal that tells you somebody's calling, and you use the smaller button to answer up. And unlike a radio where you got to go, Mike 14, this is Delta 65, go ahead, send traffic. Just like, yeah, what is it? And they're like, hey, post 2, this is post 1, I got noise to my... And it's just that simple. It's a secure network because you're completely enclosed. You know where the wire is.
Now, Warrior Basic didn't have it all nice and cushy sitting under the shady caminets getting great classes on field phones the whole time. No, they went out and did a lot of practical application too, such as their fire team rushes, react to contact, hasty ambush, react to indirect fire, and such as that. And they spent a good chunk of the afternoon getting that down pat and learning their drills. As the training came to a close in the afternoon, one could be forgiven for thinking that the training was over, but that's not how we do things at One Shepherd. So the students were given a nice good dinner, a little bit of time to rest, reorganize, soak up the lessons they had learned for the day, and get their gear ready for the Clandestine Night Link-Up mission. One of the things we do at One Shepherd is feed you from the fire hose. So your first mission that you do is a night mission. That's right, you've been training all day, but the first mission you get is at night. So hopefully you remembered your classes about radio, you remembered your night vision classes, and you get a chance to apply it all. Now this Clandestine Night Link Up only happens about once every other year in a company, or every third semester, in the fact that all the classes were able to link up for this mission. We had the basic warriors who always do Clandestine Night Link Up, but we also had the land navigation students who got to apply what they were learning during the day as a land navigation problem, leading the different teams of warriors to their objective. And then the light leader students got to apply all the leadership that they learned throughout the day into this night mission. So the three different classes came together, formed up as separate units, and then moved out onto their objectives. And what was their objectives? The scenario that they had went through the entire week. The students were from the fictional nation of the People's Republic of Bukhan. They were occupying the commerce zone of the demilitarized zone between them and the People's Republic of Namhan. They had noticed enemy activity was way down. They thought they found a soft spot, so they were going to link up with various patrols that were out, plus link up with a patrol from another area that was bringing back high-value intelligence. The students conducted their rock drills based on the plan given to them by their leaders from the Light Leader course. And once the leaders felt they were ready to go, when mission step-off time came, off they went.
50 that way, 950 that way, another 250 on the diagonal from the gate.
That sounds accurate, yeah. So, azimuth from the start point is 300 degrees, moving 350 meters. Once we hit that point, azimuth is 144 degrees, moving 900 meters.
All right.
That should put us around the ORP that you wanted, right?
Right.
From there, it's 200 meters to the release point.
All right.
Azimuth is 190 degrees. From there, from the release point to the house where you're going to go plant the 3 sensors is... Okay, 227 degrees, azimuth, 200 meters.
Young Jay, are you able to lead this? Or?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Please lead us over to the first checkpoint then.
Cool.
Over in the corner.
Once the rocks drills were complete, the patrol stepped off. Now the class was split up into 4 squads. I went along with the 4th squad. They went to 4 different points. One stepped off from the fob. The 4th here made a big dog leg over to the eastern side of the training area, following that perimeter down. And then the 2 other squads were taken to the extreme southern end of the training area and dropped off at 2 different points. All 4 squads needed to link up at one point and come back as one massed unit to the fob and have their AAR. Now, out there amongst them was several cadre acting as enemy patrols. In the scenario, the enemy had become lax and complacent, so the patrols were walking around, their firearms were bent over their shoulders, shotgun style. People were smoking and joking, talking loud, not really paying attention. Many of the patrols linked up quickly at the designated point, which was a house halfway through the training area. However, one patrol did get a little discombobulated in their land navigation and linked up just as the other 3 had decided to step off without them. The reason they had decided to step off without them was communications had failed. This was our first exercise, literally first exercise using the new radios, and we encountered problems in one of the squads, and they were unable to effectively transmit or receive. However, all the units did get linked up together, and they did come back to base as a consolidated unit as planned, and this was heralded by flares, because that was the recognition signal. Flare would be launched for coming in, and then flare, it would be answered by a flare as well. The next morning, the students were up at 0600. They only got a little bit of sleep after their night mission. However, they got a good hearty breakfast into them. And then we went off on a ruck march. Now, this is something we hadn't done in One Shepherd for a very long time. Most of the time, our ruck marches have been along a road, sometimes a dirt road, sometimes a paved road. This time, it was completely cross-country. And it was a much improved way of doing things. Over the varied terrains, people had to adjust their rucks a lot more. They learned how they were riding in conditions they'd actually be using them. And overall, I think the students got a lot more out of it in the fact that they used and prepared for getting their gear ready in the way that they would be using it. So when we reach the halfway point that you see here, a lot more people use this opportunity to adjust things. Before, people would just march out and march back. Now they made a lot of minor adjustments and to get things riding right. And it was generally a very positive feedback from the Warrior students attending the semester. After the students secure from the ruck march, they go into various classes depending whether they're in Warrior Basic, Land Navigation, or Light Leaders. And then they continue out through lunchtime doing this. Now, one difference is while Land Nav was out doing an excellent exercise of recovering people, finding people in known points as their final exercise for the class, the Warrior Basic and the Light Leaders came together. And this was an opportunity for those in Light Leaders to lead their men in a direct conflict. The force-on-force lane is set up in a very narrow area, usually just a strand of trees, to control and have close limits that force the two units to smash into each other. Light Leaders participates as leaderships using the Warrior Basic students as their weapons. So therefore, the Light Leaders leading their various forces have no miles and no weapons. They cannot be killed, but they cannot kill anyone either. And there's a very specific reason for doing this. This is so they can use their fire teams and their individual warriors as their weapon. Because when the leader focuses on aiming his rifle and engaging the enemy, he's not doing his primary job, which is to lead. And that's why it's done this way. Now the Warrior Basic guys get a chance to apply all they've been learning. They can camouflage, they can low crawl, they can IMT, they can practice their rifle marksmanship, they can practice coordinating movement as a unit, and it gets all a chance to come in one vicious battle that comes head to head. And as soon as they're done, they have a quick AAR, and then they reset and go right back at it and smash it into each other again. And each time they do this, they learn more. And as you can see, as the iterations go through, people get more proficient, they apply the lessons they've been learned, and the outcomes become more decisive. The force-on-force section then leads to the culmination of the initial training events. At that point, the students rejoin with their counterparts from the land navigation course, and the whole student body comes together, has an AAR, and then they have chow, and then on to a patching ceremony where the Warrior Basic students earn their One Shepherd patch, and then the Light Leaders take over, do their other leadership tasks, which is leading the students through weapons maintenance, maintenance of equipment, and supervising gear turn-in. We hope you're enjoying this coverage of the One Shepherd Bravo Company Spring 2023 semester. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and tune in for more videos on One Shepherd training.